All right. um, la la la. Okay. Today I want to talk about Dana White and the UFC. I started watching the UFC with um, The Ultimate Fighter, season one. And I got into it and got fooled just like the rest of you. I mean, if you want to go into the history of it, then you would just point out that in the first few UFCs, these Gracies, they didn't fight any actual combat fighters. They fought a bunch of fake fighters, and we all know about the all the fake fighters out there, but there were actually some combat organizations in the United States, I believe. Like they didn't bring in any boxers, they didn't bring any active wrestlers. It was a circus, and they were disrespecting not only the American people, but they were disrespecting the people of the world. And they're a bunch of evil Brazilian circus clowns that have no honor, because they were fooling you. They were totally fooling you. Again, Nick Diaz says that you're all being sold wolf tickets. And we've been being sold wolf tickets from the beginning. MMA is cool, and it did progress American fighting. At the time the UFC came in, American fighting was, a bunch of pillow fights. And in respect to boxing, it is a craft. It's an art and a science, and it's pretty cool. It's sad about all the brain damage that occurs, and I think is probably avoidable. If it's not avoidable, then we may want to rethink whether or not this is a sport that we want to have. But the UFC did have a bunch of positive effects in America, right? So, and let's not deny those, just by pointing out that it was entertainment being sold to you. This was entertainment being sold to you. This wasn't actual fighting. It was entertainment. But as a fighting discipline, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is amazing. It really is, and Royce Gracie. I hear he's not the best Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fighter out there. Um, the Gracies control all of their events, though. They're the point scorers. Um, and he could probably kick my ass, but that doesn't get rid of what we can see, and we can see disrespect, right? Because you're being sold entertainment, like wrestling, the entertainment wrestling. We know that's entertainment, and it's entertainment that requires the entertainers to be very talented athletes and performers. Um, so they're both real in some respect, and there's no disrespect to fighting as entertainment, but but they weren't selling it as entertainment, which it was. They were selling this as if it were real, and it wasn't. But that's why I wanted to get into Dana White, because in one of my videos I called him a word master. But I heard me say that, and I'm just like, I can't. You can't really say that anymore, because either he's lost his touch, which happens, like you can have an artist that loses their touch. So maybe he's lost his touch. Or maybe the challenges he faces are just too, as the capacity for profit expands, the challenges are just too great. But I mean, we're being sold wolf tickets from the beginning, right? Like think about this. You had Matt Hughes, right? And respect to Matt Hughes, I hear he had a crash. He seems like a good man. And but let's take Matt Hughes and let's put him up against any Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guy from Brazil at the time Matt Hughes was champion. Right? Let's say Matt Hughes versus all of the Jiu-Jitsu guys, one by one. When he's rested and fine, which couldn't happen. But let's just say Matt Hughes versus all the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys in Brazil at the time Matt Hughes was champion. Who would win? Well, we would say, Matt Hughes would win most of the time, right? But then let's do another experiment. Let's take away the time limits. Let's take away the time limits. If you take away the time limits, then the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu guys from Brazil would kick Matt Hughes' ass most of the time. If you take away time limits, then muscles become a liability, not a strength. And think about it. That's perfect for the American market, because at the time the UFC comes into the States, Americans don't know how to fight except for the pillow fights. And if you had real fights, then Americans wouldn't be champion. The only way to make Americans champion is through time limits, because there's a huge wrestling culture within America. And so a wrestler can be a champion if he only has to fight 15 to 25 minutes. Right? But, let's take two men. They're walking in a field. And there's no one around for miles. Nobody for miles. It's just two men in a field, and there's one rose within that field. And both men want that rose, right? But they can't have it. So, it's fight time. They're not going to have, any coaches to shout them sweet encouragements. They're not, or advice. They're not going to have a bell that goes ding. Again, if you take out the time limits, fighting becomes a liability. And if you had real fighting, then then it would be completely different. Not only in the past of the UFC, but in the present as well. Many of the UFC champions wouldn't be champions, I believe. You'd have these so-called nobodies. I was recently listening to, I think it was Tom Aspinall and Mighty Mouse talking, but I think Tom Aspinall was saying that in the UK, you know, you can get fast tracked to be on the UFC if you make deals with certain um, coaches. Like the coaches will come up to you and say, "Hey, I like your fighting style," and they might be in the amateur rank or just starting out as professionals, and like, "Hey, you come onto my team, make these financial deals with me, and I can fast track you into the UFC." I mean, in other words, men are not being necessarily chosen for their fighting ability. They're chosen, if they can make those deals. There might be great fighters in the UK who don't want to make those deals, or other great fighters who are just not approached by the coaches who can fast track you. I mean, it's like the UFC has always been a fantasy. It has been, and it still is. Um, and I still watch it to this day because there's some good fights and there's some good fighters out there. I could care less about the rankings. Um, but it's like Dana White has been able to create reality with his mouth for a long time. And a lot of the times, it's with fan suggestions. Fans are like, "Oh, hey, this guy should fight this guy," and that's not according to, like, they make fights according to profits, right? So it's no coincidence that nowadays you have a champion in every single nation, right? Or not a champion, but a contender from every single nation, right? It's all about trying to grab the profits of those nations, and so every nation needs at least one contender that they can show to the people and take their money, their hard-earned money. Wolf tickets, as Nick Diaz would say. Um, but a lot of times when fans make these suggestions, they're very well reasoned, but Dana White's able to shut everything down. He's able to shut the reporters down. He's able to shut the fans down, and whatever the UFC's main goal is, then that's whatever's good for profits. That's what he's going to argue, and he's able to make that a reality with just his words alone. But I think lately he's totally been failing. I mean, like especially with this John Jones stuff. I mean, John Jones is believing in the all the false praise and all the false hype. It's like the fans, and especially the real fans, they don't give a shit about you anymore. But he's still sucking up his own hype, and like if I were a British fan, I would I mean, shit, want to fucking boycott the UFC completely. Because I mean, he just keeps trying to make all these hard sells that just are not working. And again, maybe his word mastery is failing, because I used to listen to him in the past and just listen to his ability to just twist things around and be like, "Wow, this guy's pretty good." So like maybe the masters of the UFC ought to really talk about that, because maybe he's past his prime. Um, but I don't know. Let's talk more about the UFC, I guess. Um, there's all this hype around GSP, right? And I like in the beginning, I was a big GSP fan. I was. But then GSP hooked up with Greg Jackson, right? And once he hooked up with Greg Jackson, GSP started playing a point game, right? Because that's what Greg Jackson teaches his fighters. Um, Greg Jackson being like one of the worst examples of a human being ever. Because I mean, think about all of the, and I think I've said this before, but think about all of the time that this man has wasted of other men all around the world. Right? Because the Greg Jackson fight's going to be boring because the fighters are going to fight for points. It's not about the knockout or the tap out. It's not about the art or the science. It's about the art and science of gaining that point. And most people, not most people, but a lot of people maybe can't articulate that, but they see it. Like one example would be Floyd Mayweather. That's what he does in a fight, right? And the fans don't like it, but they hype him up because they want to make you idolize men that they shouldn't. um, but yeah, no, it's like once GSPE became this, this point legend, his fights were boring, and the fans didn't like him anymore either. Once he went over to Greg Jackson, this scum, who's I mean, it's just horrible. It's just horrible watching a fighter point fight, you know. Um, I mean, when GSP was coming up, he was taking on monsters, and he was just demolishing those monsters. But he got to a point where the monsters that he had to take on were up there with him, and he couldn't do it. He couldn't do it anymore. Um, it would just be a stalemate, a boring stalemate. So, um, so he went to Greg Jackson, and Greg Jackson taught him about the science of point fighting, um, which is it's bad behavior, and I'll defend that in court if I have to. It's bad behavior. Anyways, um, Greg Jackson seems like he'd be the litigious sort. But anyways, yeah, no, I mean, there's all these bitch ass point fighters out there, and GSP is a bitch ass sellout. He's a dumb human being. He doesn't have much intelligence, but he thinks he does. Because he's able to repeat like, anyways, input output. That makes you smart. Um, but yeah, no, I mean, Nick Diaz, he's a badass. There's been a lot of badasses in the UFC, and there are a lot of badasses that you don't know about out there. Um, I'm a fan of the fighter that goes in there to fight, right? But I'm also a fan of the art and science of it. There's some fighters that go in there to fight, and they don't know the art and science. They're like brawlers. Like once the UFC went international and they tried to steal all the money of the hardworking men all over the world. Um, they like right as that was happening, they told all of the American wrestlers that they can't wrestle anymore. That they have to sell out their soul. Um, I think Colby Covington's guilty of treason because he's making Americans look bad. Uh, and he's a sellout too. I mean, I hope the money is worth it. Um, but yeah, the Americans were told to stop wrestling, and then the wrestlers were kept out and are still being kept out of the UFC. You know, and not all of them. I mean, you have that Bo Nickel, but yeah, I know there are a lot of fight scientists who probably saw his downfall, foresaw, prophesied. They probably calculated that he wouldn't be good on the feet. Anyways, but it's like what happens if a wrestler goes up against a striker? The wrestler's gonna win if it's a timed fight, right? So it's like all about, and this isn't like a pro-Muslim conspiracy. It's an anti-Muslim conspiracy, right? Because the UFC is selling all you hardworking Muslims wolf tickets. They are. They're selling you guys wolf tickets. And I'm trying to get you out of that delusion that I was in at one point in time. The delusion of the word master, Dana White. Um, yeah, I know, and this is just random, but I remember watching the first season of Tough, and you had the fight between the coaches at the end, and oh man, that fight just pissed me off so much. I was just so pissed off because I saw that. Who was it? It was Bonner versus Griffin, and Griffin. I think it was Griffin, but Griffin was the better fighter, and I saw that. I'm like, oh my god, this guy has more art and science than the Bonner guy. The Bonner guy just has like heart and shit, which is cool. Someone like Justin Gaethje, he's got all heart, and he's got science if his coaches are programming it into him. But do this, do that. But it's just I mean, and it just frustrated me because I just thought if Griffin had more cardio, if Griffin had just had a bit more cardio, then he would have easily just ran through Bonner. Which I hear Bonner died recently, and it's like, hey, I mean, all you people out there need to learn the Sumerian wisdom. You just don't talk shit to people in the streets. You're gonna get axed. Stick your head up above the other flowers, it's gonna get chopped off. As the Chinese would say. Um, but anyways, yeah, no, just talk. What else about the UFC can I blab about? Who else can I piss off? Talk shit to all these men who could kick my ass. I mean, it's like there's some people out there who are like, oh, if I could kick your ass, that means I'm right, right? No, just because I can get my ass kicked doesn't mean I'm wrong. I'll fight any man out there in a sport, right? And that's the thing. Like, here's another thing. I mean the calf kick is disgusting, and there's eye pokers out there. Like if we were following the laws of Moses, then Michael Chandler should be blind. If we're following the old laws, and I'm not suggesting we do that. Oh my God, that's terrible. But if the old laws, eye for an eye, and then a lot of people are for the old laws and stuff. Um, but it sounds brutal to our modern sensibilities, right? But like Deshaun Jones right now should be walking around with a limp. fucking bitch. Like, you don't fucking do that. Like, this is a sport. And you're gonna try to handicap another man, purposely handicap them? Or hitting to the back of the head? There's a lot of motherfuckers out there who hit to the back of the head. That's disgusting. You're hitting the brain stem. That is disgusting. But to poke someone in the eye, like Michael Chandler is a disgusting human being. Poking other motherfuckers in the eye. John Jones is a disgusting human being. You know, and I think John Jones, you know, I think it seems like he might have a good heart. He just has had bad shepherds telling him that, oh yeah, kick another man in the knee. That's okay. That's okay. Scum. I'll defend myself at court, bitch. You're scum, Greg Jackson. Because that's what Greg Jackson does. He's like, oh, kick that other man in the knee. That's disgusting. This is a sport. This is a sport. And the fans love it when two men go in there to just fuck each other up, but then end up hugging at the end of the fight. Like, it warms their heart. I mean, I like all the shit talk that goes on, you know. But as long as it's fun and games, like Rampage Jackson, right? It's just like, he's great at just fucking shit talking someone. And it's entertaining to watch, you know. But at the end of the day, you know, hopefully there's that respect there, right? I'm a big Rampage fan. You know, I like Robbie Lawler. Big Robbie Lawler fan. You know, just men that fight. You know, I was a big Shavkat Rachmanov fan. But I hear in this last fight, which I didn't watch, because I only watch the free stuff online. And I don't even watch all that. I'll just watch certain fighters. But, you know, it's totally a Shavkat Rachmanov fan. But from what I hear, from what I've read and seen, it seems like he went out there to point fight Ian Gary. And it's like, no, you're falling into the GSP trap, man. Don't do it. Don't sell out. Go out there to knock out, tap out, or lights out. Yeah, no, it's like, but yeah, no, Shavkat Rachmanov's cool. But speaking of Ian Gary, right? We need to start a movement. Like, I want to start wearing a T-shirt that says "Free Ian Gary." Free Ian Gary. We need to start a Free Ian Gary movement all over the world. Like, if there's a protest in China about whatever, like, there has to be a sign out there that says "Free Ian Gary." We need Free Ian Gary signs everywhere. Who else can I piss off? Who else can I piss off? Steroids. Let's talk about steroids. Like, for me, I think, like, the whole steroid talk is primitive. I think it's very, very primitive. Are you for steroids or are you against steroids? You know, but it's like, fuck you. Like, steroids aren't real. Like, shit. Like, instead of talking about steroids, we should be talking about particular things that go into your body and the effects that they have. Right? We should be talking about individual biochemicals and shit, rather than this stupid general discussion about steroids. And you know, personally, I think, you know, again, this is a sport, and there shouldn't be any harm to the human body. Like, this isn't war. We're not, like, wanting to kill and hurt each other. But so I think it's the same with steroids. Like if the particular drug does no lasting damage to the human body, then why not use it and see what happens in the fight? I mean, just because you're using steroids doesn't mean you're going to win the fight. Maybe it does. Maybe it'll make you more likely. Maybe it's a statistical thing. You're more likely to win a fight if you do steroids. Like, these are interesting questions, scientific questions. And we should have a more sophisticated medical discussion about these so-called steroids, rather than just this simplistic, are you for or against steroids? Anyways, la 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 la. I don't know. We're just going on random things here. There is one thing that's been irritating me, and that's, I mean, like nowadays the social media is being used as a powerful propaganda tool, and I see that happening with someone like Bilal Muhammad. I mean, the propaganda out there against this guy is just terrible. And I mean, he's no different. I mean, he wrestles, but it's like some people can wrestle and they get all of the hype, but he wrestles and he doesn't get any of the hype, right? I think one of the reasons is, there's the whole, Jew-Palestine war going on, and says he's Palestinian, but from what I hear, he's American. I've heard him talk sometimes, and he sounds American, and yeah, no, I think. I made this one video. I think I erased it because I made a bunch of videos where I just was getting like drunk and annoying. But I solved Middle East peace. I did. I don't know if I've made another video on it yet or not, but let's solve it again. Here's solving Middle East peace right here. All the rabbis, you get together, and you have like a council, like the church, the Christian church used to do. You have this rabbinical gathering, and you have this rabbinical gathering to discuss the prophecies of the Promised Land, right? And you go, then you discuss all the prophecies of the Promised Land, and at the end of the conference, you basically say that, based on what's said in the Torah, the Muslims can't be in the Torah book club, right? Because they deny the Torah. right? Because this is the land promised to the Jews. Um, so yeah, just kick them out of like there doesn't have to be any violence. Just say, hey, you guys aren't allowed in the Torah book club till we get our land. But what do you do with the Palestinians? What do you do with the Muslims? It's like, well, I mean, there's plenty of land in this world. Like the United States is completely unoccupied. We're all corralled into these badly managed cities and told we're overpopulated. Now we're being told we're underpopulated. It's like, shit, make up your minds. Complete failing of the mind masters out there on that one. It was just too sudden of a switch from overpopulation to underpopulation. But it's definitely working on the somnolent masses. But anyways, yeah, no, there's plenty of land out there, and America is the land of freedom, and I personally believe that virtue is freedom. And if virtue is freedom, the Muslims believe in virtue, therefore the Muslims believe in freedom. And so, you Muslims, you're completely welcome here. Bilal, you're an American. Not a Palestinian. You might have Palestinian descent, but you or your kids are going to melt with the rest of us. America is the melting pot of the world. So, all you Jews can send your Muslims here. This is a very underpopulated land here in America. And we're not even talking about underground living, which they're not allowing us to have. But like underground living completely changes the whole game. Like you could have trillions of people on the planet easily with underground living. But anyways. Yeah, no, there's complete like social media campaign I think I see against this guy. I could be wrong, but no, there's totally like think about hype, hype. Like Floyd Mayweather is all hype. John Jones is all hype. John Jones didn't used to be hype, but now he's all hype. And so like Bilal Muhammad is suffering under this campaign of anti-hype.